We're live.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. What it do? Alright. About to change this camera view. Yeah. Next, here we go.
Yeah, come on, man. Listen.
Jeez.
Yeesh.
Hold on. I think I got one more.
Yeesh.
Oh no, I don't. No, I don't. It's all good.
Good. Jeez, this guy. Thank you and good night.
Smooth.
Yo, this is a special presentation on Perfect Circuit for the Akai Force. And I am BboyTech, and I'm here with Trovarsi. And we got a couple special friends with us, Ken Flux Pierce and DSTL.
Yeah, what up?
Beautiful set, my bro.
I know.
Thank you,
my
man. I didn't get to play the up tempo stuff, but it's all good. I'm
And
gonna
can I just
save that for later.
and I just want to say to everybody in the chat and everybody who's watching, may the force be with you. This is what we talk about tonight.
Yes. Oh wait, I got
Yeah.
auto-tune on my voice.
That's just the force being with you.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
Yeah, Trovarsi, you rocking the Star Wars shirt. It's very apropos.
Yes.
Dope.
Force be with you guys too.
That's what's up. Yo, that was a dope set, man.
Oh,
Tell us what you're doing.
Yeah, tell us what that patch was about. How you hooked it up.
So the first joint that I did was like a free form kind of modulation of all my voices in my rack that's next to me. So it was plats in the chord mode, and I was modulating all the chord modes with a sample and hold LFO. That way the progression was changing all the time. So it wasn't like something that was just static. And then same sample and hold was modulating pluck from 2 HP, and all that was being clocked by Akai Force. And then I just had that running through Mother Ducker. I had that running through that in Akai Force, just all live, going in and being side chained in real time. And as I would change the tempo or whatever I would play, it would all be glued and like mashed together. Mm-hmm. So it was really, really dope. And then I also use that as a transition back and forth between my beats, because what's really dope about the Force is that if you're monitoring in through the sample channels, you can just run anything through there and it's on all the time. And you just keep it on monitor. So it's almost like a low-key a DJ setup, because you can have something else running in there and playing while you're transitioning your tracks. Mm-hmm. And of course, hopefully one day we want, disc streaming, but that's the solution for right now. Mm-hmm. And then the other joints that I played before is just good old sample chopping and lo-fi vibes in there. Bass guitar, drums, all that sort of stuff. And then the lo-fi effect, the sample bit reduction plugin that's in here is what I used on the track overall, and it gave it that old like SP-ish, lo-fi kind of
alien
sound.
Yeah. So what I did is I just put it on the master, but put the mix to be very like low.
Curry Cases says, no big deal, just some heat.
Shout out to Curry Cases, man. Dude is making some incredible stuff. He actually made Trovarsi's case. Yeah, it's super dope, and hopefully he'll be making mine soon. So we gotta make that happen. So
that thing looks like fine furniture.
Oh, but that's why.
It is.
But that's why I love it, because I seen it and I was like, yo, that looks like I just want to drink tea sitting next to that joint.
I just want to drink tea.
Count the days until I get it. Let me tell you.
Yeah, so that was basically my set. It was just a lot of live improvisation playing. Oh, so what I was doing over here, I was playing a polysynth and a bass line on 2 keyboards here, all coming from the Akai Force while my track was running. So I was playing all those chords and all that stuff in real time with the instruments that are built into the Akai Force.
Nice.
So yeah, that's it. It's really a dope performance tool.
It is. And that lo-fi effect, I think, not all lo-fi effects are made equally or created equally, but the one in the Force is really good. I have to say, the effects in general and the plugins and stuff in the Force are actually really good. And like, don't sleep on it. I'm gonna tell you, like, back in the day when we used to have MPCs and effects cards and stuff like that, it had to be a flavor that you really wanted, because those effects were so, and they had to be used sparingly. You had to spend extra money to get the card to put it into the NPCs. But the joints that come in the Force is like really, really top notch.
So here's a little tip. Modulate the filter cutoff with the sample rate reduction. That way it sounds like an old school sampler, because that's what's really happening back then. It's like the filtering and the sample bit reduction at the same time, and that's how you get a convincing lo-fi sampler.
Yeah, that's what's up. That's a good tip.
Or
A small aspect of that is just that there's like 5 different lo-fi effects in it.
Yes,
too.
yes, and they're all like hella like lo-fi. They just sound
Yeah,
like,
there's a whole bunch of different ways you can approach that, that aspect of the Force. Like there's resampler, there's the Akai lo-fi, there's the MPC and SP modes in it. Then there's the air lo-fi, and then there's the stuff that you can do with the screen, the
yeah.
XY.
Yeah, those
It's
are
crazy.
really dope.
so, Ken, are you ready?
Are you ready, Ken?
Yeah, so steel is so smooth and so buttery, but
Cocoa butter, baby.
I'm gonna go a
Juxtapose
little
him.
bit different route.
Juxtapose him, Ken.
Ken coming in straight
I'll start
ashy.
it off nice. though.
He's coming in straight ashy.
Just dust everywhere. rubbing his hands, dust everywhere.
All right, Ken.
I'm gonna try to be as nice as possible though.
Nah, you good, man. I can't wait.
I'm not gonna do pretty transitions like my brethren over here. I'm out here to do sloppy stuff, and this is all with the Force over the course of about a week. Really, I've had it for about 3 weeks. Had about 2 weeks to mess with it, and these are kind of the results. another one for you here. And yeah. Bring this thing over here.
Ken's demo and the load time.
Ha! Well, it's a little bit of the load time and it's a little bit of the short set preparation.
Yo, Ken, I'm stealing that synth thing you did.
Sounds so good.
Got that last piece coming for you.
Oh, I thought you was checking a text.
Ken all of a sudden working.
I got notes, man.
I didn't really have anyone to talk to about these things. I kind of just went inward with it, and I became really, really sad. It was terrifying to talk to anyone, so it was very hard, I would say, to make friends and have meaningful connections with people because having siblings and I didn't really, it was just very, very close to my family, and so having siblings and I didn't really, it was just very, very close to my family, and so they didn't know that, I was that child. It was terrifying to talk to anyone. I was that awkward child. I was that awkward child. I didn't know how to have friends, that creative kid that was always drawing, very quiet, extremely shy. I didn't know how to have friends, that creative kid that was always drawing, very quiet, extremely shy.
Yo, that's fire, Ken.
Thank you much.
Yo,
Oh, yeah.
you just sold me on Elements, by the way.
Yeah. So, all that stuff that sounds like samples and strings and whatnot. That's
Yo,
all elements.
yeah, that element sounded like staccato strings. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
it really
Sounds
did.
so good.
Yeah. That's all like
Gritty,
pretty much.
super gritty. I like it.
None of the beats that I did today were sample based beats. Like everything is modular, and basically the way I use the Force is I'm either sending MIDI clock out to the modular, or I'm sending what I do is I'll send a 30 actually a 16th note pattern out through the CV, and that will be my clock to the rest of my modular. And then sometimes I'll do like weird things, like I'll send that and then I'll have like there'll be like a weird staccato in the clock to make it glitch and like give me weird timings. Because I'll send it to like the anti-module TikTok or the STD, so you can get these weird kind of syncopations. And
Hey Ken, can you just let everybody know that you don't have an STD? You're
That
using
STD is
the
a
STD.
tool.
about that. So that's an
sometimes-
anti-module Eurorack module called
What's
the
it stand
STD.
for? It's a syncopated
timing disruptor.
Yeah, I got that joint over there. I keep that joint hidden.
Yeah, definitely got one. It's a secret weapon.
Like, yo. I
Yeah,
got
so
an
so
STD.
the bass line for pretty much every track there was made on the Delta Sep A, and that's been like my go-to lately for basses and just like instantly getting that kind of thing. But then also the delay effect that's in it is like light years better than just about any other delay out there. So like what I'll do is I'll be playing the bass and then I'll start warping the sound back and forth and get these weird glitches with it like that. Yeah, so Elements and Dust of Time. Dust of Time is a new module that I use that a good bit. What?
Yo, the one thing everybody's gonna remember from this show is that Ken got an STD.
We got it from the Force.
We got it from
Listen,
Yo.
listen. All I'm saying is the Force works really well with STD.
Oh man.
Curry Case that says it's worth it to say the full name.
Right.
Yeah, yo. That's mad funny.
No doubt. Yo, so Ken, one of the things that somebody was asking is whether or not all the sound was coming directly from the Force, and I answered for you because I believe I know, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. That it all came from the Force, but it was all sampled in as you were composing, right?
So that's what. So I bought a Force recently, and the reason why I bought it was because I wanted a workflow where I could just sample as I create beats without having to stop or anything. And so like I build my basic drums are all done in the Force, and then everything is just kind of out in the modular and whatnot, so that as it's playing, I'm like, ooh, this is a nice piece, and it's all in time because I'm clocking everything. So I just hit clip, and boom, it goes right into the clip, and it's already in the beat. And then I'm like, oh, well, now I want to do a variation on that. And either I already have modulation going, or I twist a few knobs, and, you know, next thing you know, we're off and flying. So, yeah, I like to sample everything in there. And as far as live sets are concerned, when you have like a week to prepare for a live set, yeah, I'm not leaving it all up to the modular.
No doubt.
And you're
Why
doing
not?
you're doing sync sampling, right, Ken?
Yeah, basically with the clips, I'm just letting, you know, I have it set up to where all my gear kind of goes to a central hub, and then it can come back to the Force. So if I hit, you know, okay, this sub out, that's going to the Force. So at any given moment,
Yeah.
I can, at any given moment, I can just like send whatever back to the Force, and then just, you know, sample it in there just by tapping a pad, and it automatically, you know, I come from using MPC and Machine, so it just kind of puts it right into place. Yeah, it's faster than anything else I've used. So it's kind of like having like Ableton just in a little box. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice. Mm-hmm.
Who next? Trovarsi, you next?
Yep. Just
Oh
give me-
snap!
Next up, I believe that's me. Yeah, go for it, Trovarsi.
She probably gonna kill it too. Like always,
I'm gonna switch it up a little bit.
I'm always mad whenever I hear her stuff.
But this is what's dope about this. I think one thing that should come off about this lineup, because all of us do something a little different. The sound you're hearing is different, and it's all coming from the same tool, the Force. So yeah, now Trovarsi gonna take it to another place for us right now.
Yo, Trovarsi, I need some red cables for my joint.
All right, we all gonna mute. Trovarsi, expand your screen so it goes full screen.
cautious. We must be 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 cautious. We'll never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. We must be cautious.
That's it.
Oh, yo.
Yeah, sis. Heat.
Trovarsi's track made me just want to jump in a crowd of white people wearing nothing but ripped jeans.
Throwing elbows.
Pouring Diet Cokes on myself. Wilding for no reason. Just like, yo, that joint, the energy off of that joint.
Oh, it was heat. It was heat.
That joint made me want to eat mad Skittles.
Hey, yo,
That's that sugar high music. Nah, that was dope.
That was so good, yo.
I'll be honest with you. All I could think about with that was just like, yo, this is the kind of music. Like, if I go out to the club, if I'm not having a good time, something is drastically wrong because that gets you moving.
Yo, that was so good.
That was heat, man. And that RTD2 bit.
Yep.
Don't mess it up, Corey. Don't mess it up, Corey.
I know this is not the day to mess that up.
like-
But yeah, the mini robot, glitch.
R2D2.
The cylinder ARP 2600.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, that was dope. So tell us about what you got going on that patch and how you hooked that up. And wait, I just want to also say that this is dope what you did because you're new to both Akai, MPC, and the Force. Like this is kind of new workflow and stuff for you.
Yeah.
Although you're aficionado when it comes to Ableton Push and Push 2, I mean, right? So first, before you get into your patch, how was the transition? How's the transition going between the two?
Can you guys hear me? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
going really good. I think the fact that it does have the layout, like with the scenes and the clips, it was easy for me to digest that, like to make that transition and kind of correlate how Ableton is set up and how the flow, and then I can kind of carry some of that over to the Force. Because yeah, this is the first time I've ever really used the Akai workflow, and yeah, so far so good. Like I really
Dope.
like it. And, yeah.
That's what's up.
Yeah. So basically, what I did was I had a bunch of one shots and things that I've been collecting over the years, things I've either made or picked up, and then for the R2D2 and the Star Wars quote, I just chopped that up in there in the Force, and then I have I'm sequencing my modular, and actually that arpeggiated, that really high arpeggiation was actually the noise engineering BIA, which is usually a kick or a bass.
Ooh.
Yeah, so
Nice.
I was kind of trying to do
Dang
something
it,
different with it.
Travarsy. Why you gotta tell me that, yo?
Yeah, it has a lot
The
of
BIA is
dynamic-
crazy flexible, yo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Adds to cart.
Yep. But yeah, and then I just so I'm using one of their. They have actually Noise Engineering has a module coming out soon, sometime this year, called the Universe Iter, and that's how I was able to get to sequence my modular sending MIDI
So
to that module. And I'm sequencing so the BIA, and then that sort of growl underneath was the verbose complex oscillator.
I thought it was. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Dang, adds to cart again.
But so yeah, that's it.
Nah, that
Nah,
was
that's
great.
dope.
That's really,
Yeah, that was
really
heat.
dope.
And did you, for that ARP, were you using what the actual notes from the ARP come from?
The MIDI.
The MIDI from but so the Force was providing it over
Yes.
MIDI.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, because it has that cool feature where you can hit the ARP and then latch it and then
Mhm.
kind of play different things. So what I did was I found some chords that I liked, latch, and then I was able to quickly record that MIDI clip out, and then I just duplicated it. And
Nice.
I love the context of sampling in techno. It's really, really dope.
Mhm.
Like that's like, to me, like it's just thinking in a different way, like when you're sampling. And I was just super fascinated watching you perform that. That was just really, really dope.
Yeah, and I could tell you from being there when I was one of the last places I went before we got in our current situation is that I was at Trovarsi spot, and she was getting a hang of sampling with the Force like that. Like, I mean, she was just going the next clip and next clip and next clip and modulating the the filter and stuff on the modular synth and going to the next clip and grabbing 4 bars, or going to the next clip and grabbing 4 bars, or going to the next clip and grabbing 4 bars. And to me, what that said is that once you even get a glimpse, a little bit of idea of how the workflow works, you can start moving around it like that. Yeah, dope stuff.
Yeah, the biggest changes I think going from like MPC to this, like when I was looking at this thing and I was looking at how I was going to approach it, because it was kind of like I wasn't hearing as much about it at the time, but luckily, like, you know, we all talk on the daily, so I kept
We all
seeing
added the
what
peer
you were
pressure
doing.
to you.
well, I kept seeing what Corey was doing, especially, and I'm like, you know what? Like he seems to be moving quickly on it, and for me, the NPC just wasn't as quick as Machine was, and I really wanted to use Ableton more. But something about Ableton always kind of like put me off. It's just like a mental thing where it's like how it looks, how it operates, like whatever it is. It was always just kind of like, okay, I know it's crazy powerful, I know it's crazy fast, but like for me, it was like PC versus Mac kind of thing. Like it doesn't necessarily have to make sense. It just wasn't for me at the moment. So I was like, yo, let me try this thing out as a standalone, because I really wanted to get back to doing standalone stuff. I still use my 2000 XL like all the time because I just like that standalone vibe. And now it's like, okay, there's certain things that the Force maybe doesn't have that, like, I'm like, oh, I really wish it had this, but at the same time, it's easy to work around them, and there's so much that you could just like keep moving with, and like I really enjoy the workflow of like not having to stop a sequencer, you know?
Right. Yeah, that's why I like being able to hit a clip and just keep recording, keep moving down the clips. Corey, so are you ready to?
Corey, you ready?
You ready for this?
Sure. Let's let me switch my camera.
And while you're switching your camera, I just want to tell everybody in the chat, thank you for tuning in and hanging with us for this Akai Force chat. And after Corey's performance, he's going to talk about some tips and just some tips and tricks on how you can use the Force. So yep. So without further ado, Corey, you ready?
Yep.
All right, we got BboyTech. Yo.
Everyone hates Corey.
Just a typical Monday.
Yeah, man, that was super dope, Corey.
Thanks,
He's
bro.
over there cheating.
Man,
Those are-
I had to take my shirt off, man. I started with a sweatshirt.
got the strip.
Yeah, man.
Oh, that's wild. Yeah. So yeah, y'all see, I'm a fan of ARPs.
Yeah, ARP City.
Yeah, ARP City, album name.
Yeah.
Well played, sir.
Word. Hold on, take a little drink.
Drink.
So hold on, switch my camera right quick. And here.
All right.
Yo, okay. So yeah, that was basically 3 beats in one project. So what I started doing is, honestly, the Forces is the machine that got me to start performing out. I had been trying to figure out like what would be the most comfortable way for me to perform out and how I could do the stuff that I wanted to do. And I don't know that what I'm doing here stylistically is much different than what I did on the MPC X. But what I did find is that I was more comfortable performing and doing live arrangements on the Force. And like Ken mentioned, it kind of allowed me to work quick and move around quick. You know what I mean? Like those things, those are all ARPs from random stuff in my modular, or ARPs from, you know, one of the keyboards back here, and I can just capture it all quick.
Are you programming the ARPs using the ARP function on the
Some of
Force,
them.
or are you using their own, or what?
Some of them I'm using the Force. The Force has a really dope ARP, so I do use that quite a bit. A couple of these, actually, it was a mixed bag in this particular set. So some of the high ARPs that you heard towards the end there, I really don't remember what I was using, but I do know I was using the Force ARP. I'm not sure what the sound source was, but then some of the earlier ones in the set, the first couple beats, was the matriarch, and so I just kind of sampled the audio. I didn't even bother with any kind of, you know, CV or MIDI or anything. I just sampled like it's an audio track, so I just recorded the audio directly into an audio track, and then just kind of keep going like that. And then I have my grandmother. I saw people chatting in the text about the bass, and that's literally most times, all the time, I'm using the bass, which is the grandmother. And here's the interesting thing: I received the Force and the grandmother at something else. Like I was coming back from a trip, like December something or another, and it was just before the Force was, you know, made public.
It was right before NAMM.
Yeah, it's right before NAMM. So
Yeah.
I kind of had a jump and kind of learning. I didn't have no manual or any of that kind of stuff, so you had to kind of learn as you go. And being able to have something like the grandmother, I almost feel like the Force and the grandmother in my studio is a pair. Like it's the center. Those two are the center of my universe. You know what I mean? And so yeah, I just kind of use those, and I'll just kind of take different parts and grab them and throw them into audio tracks or to clips, and just kind of keep going that way. And then I've gotten into a thing where, like I said, it's 3 different compositions. So I've gotten into a thing where I just kind of make if I know I'm doing a set, I make all the beats in one project. And then I play them back and do live arrangements.
That's dope.
Yeah. So it can be, sometimes I'll be like, yo, this weekend I may make a few beats and I'll save it to that project. Then I may open that project back up next weekend. You know what I mean? And if the drums are not hitting me the way I want them to, I may change or add another drum track to them so that I can then make the next couple beats further down in the project with different drums. You know what I mean? So when I perform it all out, it's got a little bit of a different vibe, but still cohesive.
Are you working in the same tempo most of the time?
Yeah, actually, all the time I'm working in the same tempo.
Dope.
Yep. And so that's why too. Sometimes I try to make the drums hit a little trickier. Sometimes it's just kind of a simple boom, bap, boom. But other times it's kind of like doubling up or something like that to kind of, because I'm working in the same tempo. I want to kind of give it a little bit of a different feel.
Hey, can I just point something out about that I kind of discovered? So, like I said, I was just making them all this week, and
Mhm.
what I found was one of the great things about it is even if you do it in the way that Corey's talking about, where you do it all in one project and it all starts at one tempo, even if you did adjust the tempo, everything automatically time stretches.
Yeah,
So
it
you
sounds
could
great,
be
yeah.
playing and then adjust your tempo live on the fly as you're transitioning beats, and you're fine. Like it's all just going to go with it.
That's true. That's something. Actually, Upright and I were talking not long ago, and I was making another track with ARPs. I'm always messing with ARPs, and then when I grabbed the audio for the ARP, I was kind of like, "Yo, I don't like the way it sounds." So I copied the track to another track, and then I started speeding the ARP up, so it stayed at the same length, right? It was time stretching, but you know what I mean? The pitch was going up, so I could change the pitch, but everything was hitting where it needed to be hidden. And I'll do that all the time. Well, I'll copy stuff and transpose it, but it's audio and it's actually stretching it.
I like the way that time stretching sounds in the MPC. Like the fact that it artifacts and it does all that stuff, and it's
Mhm.
not even that bad. It's actually better than a lot of other ones that I've heard.
And you
And
can change it to a more lo-fi one if you want.
and that's what I was gonna say. If you want like a shittier sounding sampler, you can make it sound that way. Like
Yeah,
that's what's
in
really
the
dope
settings
about it. Yeah.
there's like a more CPU efficient version or whatever of the time stretching algorithm, and you can select that.
I love it. I think
Have
it's
any of
dope.
you guys even come close to hitting the CPU limits on it? Because like when I'm making my beats on it, now granted I'm using a lot of audio clips because I'm using a lot of this gear, but like I'm not coming anywhere close to the CPU usage on it.
I haven't hit
I
that
haven't
threshold yet.
either.
I have hit some limits along the lines of
Would it be like if you
memory
add more
space
effects?
when I've got so many
Sample memory,
effects,
yeah.
sample
Yeah.
memory, so many effects, and so many audio tracks, so many samples, so many, because I'm literally going through the entire gambit of things, like when and if
Especially if
I'm
you're doing a
working,
whole set in one, because you
yeah,
have what
Mhm.
two gigs is your
yeah,
RAM limit. Yeah.
Yeah, I
right.
remember you telling me that just to make, just to be careful of how many effects, just to watch the CPU
Yeah,
when
watch
you
the
had a.
CPU when you do that, because you have so many places you can add effects. You can add effects at the track mixer level for each pad.
Yeah.
You can add effects on the track level. You can add effects on the send. You know what I mean? You could do all those things, and then on top of that, you can sample something, chop it, and throw it to another drum track. Sample something, chop it, and throw it to another. And you start, that thing gets voluminous quick.
Well, one of the
Well, not
dope.
quick. I
Well,
really hit that limit, but I come close a few times.
I was gonna say one of the dope advantages of the mixer in the Force, rather than the MPC, is like, yeah, it still has all the same layers like program and group and master and sends, but it's just laid out in a way where it's kind of like a console where if I want to
Mhm.
take all my drums and sum them to a certain bus and then just mix all that together and then send that, my bass and my synths to another spot, that it's very visual too. Like
Mhm.
it's,
Mm-hmm.
and remember that day we were on Marco Polo, we were all trying to figure out, hey man, how do I sum this thing? How do
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
bust
yeah.
this? How do I do that? And it was it was really like simple once we actually found out that all we had to do was swipe.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
You
Just
know?
swipe to the left,
So
to the
yeah,
right,
yeah, it
everyone's
was
there.
dope
Yeah,
because it doesn't seem it's a workflow that's not really a standalone device kind of it's not there. There's not really any standalone devices that you can swipe on. You
hmm
know what I'm saying? So like all these new habits, these are new
hmm
habits that we have to form
right.
whenever making music in here. And yeah, that's why I think the Force is really really fire because it's forcing us to to get out of our comfort zone and kind of like
The pun
think
intended.
differently.
Yeah, it definitely is, and it's dope the way it integrates with everything, so it just works that way.
There was a question in the chat while you were playing, or actually right after you finished playing, and it's a, pertaining to launching clips and launching scenes. And I believe the question was, is there let me see. I can't see back, unfortunately. I'm sorry. But
Oh,
basically, I
let's see.
think they were asking is like when you launch a scene, and maybe it's a setting because the way it immediately jumps versus allowing the clip to play through before it starts playing.
Oh,
So is that
yeah.
a setting? I think somebody asked. So maybe they're setting.
Yeah, so it's a clip quantize.
Yeah, quantize
And
to the bar.
yeah, it quantizes to the bar. So you could do a 1 bar, 2 bar, 4 bar, however you feel comfortable. I always set my clip quantize to 1 bar. So that way, just as my loop is coming back around, whether it's 4 bars or 8 bars, if it's a 4 bar loop that I'm coming out of, that sequence, that particular scene is like 4 bars, then just after, like at the top of the 4th bar, I'll hit the next scene. And because it's quantized to a bar, it's going to start at the end of, at the top of the 1 bar for the next bar.
Corey, here's where it get. Oh, I'm sorry. I was gonna say where it can get really dope is the clips are independent of that bar launch. So what you can do is you can go in the clip and change the start points of where your clips start.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
now you have like this polyrhythmic thing happening.
Can you change the clips individually and for how long they loop around?
Yeah.
Like, as a new
Yeah.
like,
So
all mine I had to kind of work within the confines of the knowledge I had.
oh no, I feel you. So
I was
so
like, how can I make some of these longer and some of them shorter? But
so check this out, Trovarsi. So right now, if I click the clip button on the bottom of the clip screen, it has loop start, loop length, and you can just literally change the length to whatever you want. Like of the so you can have every single clip could be a different length, but they're all launching at the bar.
Yep.
I got you. Okay.
And then when you tie it to the crossfader, like you could copy them over and do different things with the crossfader. You can use that as transitions too. Like a lot of my clips that I'm launching and scenes that I'm launching, I'm crossfading over into different elements as I'm doing it.
I haven't got to the crossfader yet, but it's pretty cool.
Crossfader's dope.
I haven't even gotten
yeah.
to the point of how to
Assign the crossfader.
Nah, not even doubling the length of my clips. I don't even know how to do that. I just perform them the way that they are, and then that's it. I haven't even tried to look for that. Does anybody know how to do that? Like doubling the length of a clip, like duplicating it twice instead of.
Yeah, it's a little wheel in the upper right hand corner, depending on which screen you're in.
It's a cog.
Yeah, that.
Whoa.
Yeah, my bad.
Wait. So
Don't
where
get
is it?
sexy on us. If you press the clip button, if I'm recalling correctly off the top of my head, granted I've only had it for like 2 weeks, but yeah, I think clip button and then there's a cog in the right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then you go in there and it brings up like a little dialogue, I think.
Yeah, but where does it say to double? That's what I'm trying to look for.
This camera ain't the greatest. I'm trying to show you.
Oh, okay. Corey's got it set up. I'll let him handle his business.
What screen
And for
is
those
that?
of you who are kind of tuning into this, so this is what we do to Corey on our Marco Polo chat.
Yeah.
We pepper him with questions. And
Here you go to edit. Like I'm in the clip. I'm in the clip screen, and you hit the edit button, not actually the cog. The cog will do some other things, but it's here, the edit, and then you get this.
Yeah, but I don't see no double the joint. Not double speed. Double,
You mean double the length?
Yeah, like for instance.
Yeah, where is it? Hold on. It's in here. I have to find it.
Oh, somebody said it's at the bottom right of the grid. Hold on. I don't see that joint.
No, I have to look. I don't remember where it is. Oh, clip. There it is. Well, I don't know if that's the same. So if you go to the clip button, so by default you're there. If you go to clip, and then if you hit shift, you'll see half and double. Let's see.
But that's a speed thing though, right? Or wait.
No, that just doubled the size of the clip.
Oh, so wait. So where do we go again, Corey? Clip.
Yeah, go to clip.
Uh-huh.
You'll see grid, and clip once
Yeah,
you're
I
in
see
the
that.
clip window, but then you'll have to hit shift. Let me pull this out a little bit. Hit
Oh,
shift.
okay. I
And so
see it.
there's the first tip. Anybody that's thinking about getting a force, shift is the thing you need to get used to. You get the force, you need to sit with the force and just hit shift and in combination with every button and see what it brings up, because it's very shift heavy. So shift heavy. In fact, the first couple of weeks I had it, I was kind of frustrated because I was like, yo, there's too many shift commands. But now that I understand where things are, it kind of becomes second nature. So and actually it allows me to kind of move around quick. It keeps the menu system a little less menu divey.
Someone else chimed
somebody
in.
they said
Oh,
read the
sorry.
manual. I don't like reading. What I look
I know,
like?
right?
Well, for
No,
me, I didn't
that's
have a
cool.
manual when I got it. There was no manual. So, but sometimes too, it's actually fun to kind of figure things out too. You know what I mean?
So
That
one
was
more question about the clips, just so before we move off that. There was
go ahead.
another question in the chat, and I think like in Ableton, you have the option to, for each of your clips, you can change whether it starts at the beginning of the next clip when you hit the next clip down on your track in the scene mode, or it will start, the playhead will continue and drop wherever it was on the previous clip and continue playing on the next clip that you launch. Are you able to do that on the Force, or right now is it just
Or like the follow actions?
yes?
I don't.
I think
I
it
don't.
goes
I haven't tried
shift
that.
launch. I don't know if it's actually called follow action. So let's see. Nah, I don't see that. But actually, hold on, shift and launch. So if you go to shift launch default empty slots, the quantize length. Nah, I don't see a follow actions in there.
Someone said I kill for follow actions. Yeah. So what's another tip for us, Corey? And then
Um,
chat here.
okay, so I'm gonna adjust my camera and kind of show you how. So this is my whole set, right? So and I got kind of like a cheat code. So if you look at the way this clip it looks, and I'm sorry I couldn't adjust the brightness. I don't have the greatest camera here of the buttons, but whenever you see this is more like my drum tracks. The first two are my drum tracks. And so I typically can tell if there's no drum, then I'm probably doing something melodic like an intro or outro. So that's how I can tell what clip I'm going to, or when I'm entering the next song, because it's typically just one clip lit with no drums. So that's a bit of a performance trick. And as you kind of go down through this, you'll see gaps there. There's no drum there. So that's the beginning of the next track.
Oh, Corey, that reminds me. There's a tip that I brought to the Force that I brought from Ableton.
Yep.
So I'll create empty clips that are just mute clips that I can just cut everything off, like randomly. Like I'll have a whole like row of stuff, and then I'll have like an empty clip in the middle of it, so that I can, when I'm performing, I don't always have to go to stop clips on the bottom. I could always just stop stuff on the grid.
Dope.
So that's something that helps me perform and just like stop a lot of delays or other things that are happening all at the same time. So that's something that has helped me a lot.
That's actually a dope trick. I'm gonna have to use that. Here's another thing that when you working with clips and stuff, the thing that I think I liked about transitioning from the MPC to something like this is because you have everything, all your tracks are just laid out. It's like a coloring book, just kind of laid out there. You don't have to remember how many tracks are in a sequence, all that. It's just kind of there. However, when you scroll over there's other tracks when you scroll back and forth. But here's the thing. So can you hear that? So here's the thing. I may want to add another clip. So I may want to copy this. So one of the cool things that you can do is kind of create an empty scene by doing edit clip. Then this little screen comes up.
Okay.
And it says insert 8, insert and capture, clear. So I'll do insert, and it created this empty scene right here. Now I can actually take this clip and copy it there by holding down copy, hitting the clip and hitting the empty clip. Now it's there, and I may want to do something a little different there, like delete that clip. And now I've just kind of made a different arrangement, another sort of section of the track.
Yo, I would kill for a paste button.
Oh yeah. That's a quotable.
Yo, bro, like it just messes with my head seeing a copy button but not seeing a paste button.
Right.
Yeah, right. It kind of is incomplete.
I'm like,
I don't have closure.
To me,
Right?
it's really familiar because it's similar to how machine would work with copying pads and machine.
Mhm.
So it's very like if you're used to the machine workflow, the copying workflow is very similar. So that
Actually,
worked
that's
out.
how I chop my samples in the Forest. I'm just copying the same sample over and over again and just changing start points and doing all that stuff.
So Synth Addict, no, there's no CV issues that I've come across. I mean, they're pretty rock solid, right? You pretty much
I have a
assign them.
minor. I have a minor
Do
thing
you?
about that.
Go for
So this is minor, but there's a workaround. That's why I'm bringing it up. So when I first got it, one of the first things I wanted to do was just to clock my modular with some CV, and
Yeah, I know.
there's no direct clock output from it, which kind of had me like, oh, what the heck. So then I went immediately. I was like, okay, well, you can choose what's CV and what's gate, for
That's
each
right.
channel, whatever. And I was like, okay, well then let me set the grid to a 16th note and then, put a step in there for each 16th note. The problem with that then is that you couldn't change the gate length of each step. Like if you're in a grid of 16th notes, you can't change that 16th note to only be 1/32 of a 16th note, So what I discovered that you need to do is that you actually need to go, if you want to set a 16th note clock, right? You need to go to 32nd notes and then put the 16th notes in there that way. That way they're short, because otherwise what will happen is the gate will stay high, and because the gates all will just run together. If it's 16th note next to 16th note in that grid, it never really dips. So you need to use 32nd note grids and then put it in there that way, and then you have your clock coming out.
One thing
via
I
that
noticed
method.
with the clock, with piggybacking on what you said, Ken, is that also if you using any of the mute and solo features, that chops.
Oh, that
clock.
chops the clock. Yep.
So
Yep.
that's
That sucks, because
that's a-
then all of a
yeah.
sudden you have your
Like-
your modular drifting. So that is that's a thing. That's true. Yeah, that does suck. But just so people know how you do that, though, you hit the plus on the screen. I'm gonna escape here though. There's a little plus. You can create new tracks, and obviously you can create any of these types of tracks here. Audio, drum. Oh, and to me that's a bit of a myth that goes around about the MPCs and the Force, that it only has 8 audio tracks, and people don't know exactly what that means. There are 8 tracks in standalone mode that's speaking for the MPCs, but also for the Force. As a standalone machine, there are 8 audio tracks that you can have, and that's kind of like a ceiling for the sake of saving resources. But that doesn't mean that you could only have 8 tracks. This has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 types of tracks, and one of the types of tracks is an audio track. So just a note there. That doesn't mean like you can have audio on drum tracks, which is like a program in an MPC for those that know that world.
It's not like Pro Tools LE where they just jack you up by just giving you eight audio tracks.
Right, because you can have a number of drum tracks, a number of plug-in tracks, a number of key groups, MIDI and CV tracks. But then if you want to put vocals on with somebody singing in, or have your guitar player, bass player playing in live, you're going to use an audio track. So you can only do that 8 times.
Yeah.
You know what I
Well,
mean?
actually, here's the thing. Because you can work in clips, you can actually record way more audio than is required on 8 audio tracks, because you can dice that up and then throw those clips into samplers and still launch them as MIDI, and they're still in time with everything. So
That's right. So you could just chop up an audio clip and drop it down to a drum track.
Yeah.
Right.
I've seen guys doing putting acapellas in the Force and then chopping it up into a sampler and just like launching every couple of steps with the vocals, and it's good to go, man. I'm really impressed by it. I think my dog is trying to.
So right there, I just made a CV track, and the way you assign the CV is just in this little. I'm sorry, my camera is the worst.
It is.
It really is. So anyway, this says CV port, and it's on number 1, and then gate ports on number 2. So when you send it a gate, actually, I'll make a clock, and so I'm going to send it out of gate 4. Now you got this track that's just ready to be. You can just throw your 16th notes or 32nd notes or whatever you want your clock to be, and just do that for however many bars, 1 bar. Now then that serves as your clock. But obviously it's a workaround to sending a clock out via CV. So, like we were saying earlier, that becomes a problem if you hit mutes or solos and stuff.
Cool.
Yep.
Oh yes. Yeah, Justin Olson, PTNA. Yeah, one day we'll get to the day where we can stream audio from these devices. It'll be really dope. But right now we gotta do the workarounds.
That's right. That's why you find us on Marco Polo peppering each other.
I love how our workarounds these days are about like, oh, I want to stream gigs, where I'm still like working on my 2000 XL, and I'm like, I just want to like be able to save period, and have it load.
No doubt.
Yeah, it's.
One more thing. I want to also show this.
So let me put you back up so people can kind of get a better. All right.
All right, so what this is the browser, and you have your places. That's my Force SSD, and the places I threw a hard drive into it. You have your content, and then you have expansions, and then the expansions, I actually have, Beat People expansions, and these are actually MSX Audio expansions.
Fam.
Right. And then I have all my Beat People expansions. I have a Flux expansion. Then there's Analog Boom Bap, the Chicken Kit Colors, Dawn of a King, Layers, and all those things, all of those expansions that, shameless plug that you can get on beatpeople.com, right? But they come with an MPC expansion. So anything that you use, any MPC expansions that you could use, you could put in here. And have all that stuff available to you right there, and it's easy enough to load. I'll go to make a new drum track. So you make a new drum track. Boom.
I dropped your link in the chat, so if people want to know how they can get their hands on some of those drum packs.
Oh yeah, go to beatpeople.com, and the link goes directly to the newest products that's on there.
I'm always scared to type that in the browser.
Beatpeople.com.
I'm just like, I don't know what's gonna pop up if I miss it.
No doubt. When I was making the company, my sister's like, "You think in this climate?" Because it was like hands up, don't shoot. She's like, "You think in this climate you want to name your company Beat People?" Like, you don't get me. So once you got that up, then you can come here, and I'm selected on that new drum track that I got. Hit that, and then hit load. Now, I got those drums right over here.
So, what was that?
Drums.
I like it.
Was
It's like
it too loud?
Apex Twin just tried to jump through your forest.
It was like a Tyrannosaurus breakdancing.
Yeah, so that's what's up.
Cool.
That sounds great. Like great destruction. Oh man. So yeah. Force.
So what other tips do you have for us, Corey?
Well, I got a couple things, but I mean, I think the bigger things is there's integration. I want to let people know you get MIDI. I mean, get mutant brain. If you want to integrate this with your modular, that's the way I do it. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways to be able to do that stuff. Hold on. Yeah, there's a bunch of different ways to be able to do it, but the way I do it is with Mutant Brain. And what that does is it gives me that many more CV out using a 16 channels of a MIDI track to convert to CV. So you get
What
all those gates, and then but you still have your four CV out on the back of your force. So
what's
it's a good
cool
way to
about
integrate.
what's cool about the mutant brain is that you actually don't even have to create a gate channel, a clock channel in your
Mhm.
force, because you can just set up one of the outs on the mutant brain to be a clock divider. So
Yeah,
Yeah, I do that with the shuttle control too.
I was gonna
Are you
show
using the
you.
shuttle control right now, Ken?
Actually, right now I'm kind of in flux with it because
Nice.
I'm getting ready to I'm using it with the Sensal Morph, so I've been kind of messing with that.
Hold it up again, Corey. Yeah, the mutant brain.
Yep, yep.
So the like you said, the good thing about this is a lot of the stuff that we were just talking about, sending a clock out and all that kind of stuff. With the mutant brain, you throw 5-pin MIDI in there, and then you get all of these outputs here. And what I do is you can go to a site that's like Mutant Brain Surgery, like Dee was saying, and I set up a clock divider on here. So 32nd notes, 16th notes, eighth notes, quarter notes, half notes, whatever it is, all at the bottom. So then I can easily clock, and that's uninterrupted with mutes and anything. And
mhm.
so it gives me that kind of real tight modular integration by throwing this into your rack. It's and it's configurable, so you can make this into whatever you need it to be, whether it's gates or triggers or so forth and so on.
There's one more topic, and I want to bring up before we kind of before we close out the segment. Is there was some talk in the chat about exporting sample, or excuse me, stems. Is that to Ableton or just preparing stems for your DAW? Anybody
You could do
know?
either way. You can do ALS export, which is an
Mhm.
Ableton session, and it opens up in either linear or session view. You can pick which way you want it, and you could also export stems of your stuff, which is pretty dope. But I think it's gonna get better in the future. So I think because certain things we've already seen in betas floating out there, like arrangement mode and all that stuff, is going to come out where exporting stems is going to be way easier, and your song, all you got to do is drop it in your DAW and mix. So it's going to
Yeah.
be really, really, really dope.
So this is one of those things like you can, and that's true, D. Um, I feel like it's going to be a lot to come, but in its current state, you can hit the save button, just tap the save button, this little window comes up, and
Yeah,
then you can hit Ableton Live Set. Basically, it's going to export it to an Ableton Live Set. So you do that, and this window comes up, and you get some options. Audio include track volume and pan settings, bypass track effects. You could do the audio tells in seconds, the bit depth, and the sample rate. And then you hit export, and what it does is it exports an entire ALS project that you can then throw into Ableton and open that up. So yeah,
yeah,
makes it convenient.
it's very convenient, and it helps people actually finish, get to the second stage of mixing and all that other stuff that comes with making music. So it's really, really dope.
Yes, sir. Oh, Travarsi, you're muted.
All right.
Now she was just cussing us out.
I
That's
know,
what she was
right?
doing. She was like,
You
I
"No."
felt it.
blippity blops.
Y'all taking my Skittles?
No, I just want to say thank you to you guys. Everyone sounded so good. I love the diversity in the music, and you guys always inspire me to dig more into my force. So I really appreciate that. And I want to say thank you to everyone that's been hanging out with us tonight and tuning in. And yeah, it's been a good night. I've been learning some things, hearing good music. So yeah.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much.
having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us and everybody out there. If you want to know more about the Force, follow any of our channels. Well, I don't have mine yet, but soon I will. And follow, follow, the squad here. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
gonna be great.
Awesome.
Cool.
And hey, yo, I just wanted to say something. We got today, my man Greg over at Analog Cases announced his Force case. It's actually a unison case, but it's a Force case. So he makes really dope cases. And stay tuned to B-Boy Tech Report, because B-Boy Tech Report and Analog Cases on Instagram, because we're gonna do a giveaway. So I'll be telling you the details about that on there. We're gonna give away a unison case. Don't even have to be a Force unison case, but any unison case that he might make.
Am I disqualified?
Yeah, I'm like, am I
No.
disqualified?
I need that.
I'm like,
I saw the post on Instagram, and I had to message him. I was like, that thing looks really nice.
yeah. We gonna get that going.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
good stuff,
thank
yo.
you.
I'm gonna be watching this more because I want to hear the musics.
Mhm.
All right, peace.
All right.
Peace.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.